Hello. I'm just trying to, it's kind of tricky to get everything that I want to get going on here with the webcam. I can do it on my phone, but YouTube will not let me go live on my phone. So don't ask me why. I'm going to put my apron on. This is just a little impromptu thing that I want to do. I got to make dinner anyways, so I may as well document it. What I'm going to make is a really great, I'm going to call it a workhorse recipe. It's a wonderful tomato sauce that can be, it's not the type of thing that you want to just willy-nilly eat it on its own, but it can be a tremendous foundation for so many different things. You can use it, it's incredibly versatile. So I have everything prepped. I was going to do it earlier, but then my daughter called and I'm powerless to do anything when I have the opportunity to chat with her. So, okay. So this is a wonderful tomato sauce. It's pretty basic. I'm going to tell you all the things you need to do. I don't have the right pan. I have small or very big. And I have a medium pan, but it doesn't work in the induction burner. So I think I need to acquire another pan pot. But I can probably do that at IKEA or something. But what we're going to do is we need an onion, probably like half an onion chopped. The onion is kind of, it's not written in stone how much onion you need with this. We're going to put a little bit of olive oil in the pot. Get the lid off the olive oil. There we go. Don't need a lot, just a bit. Woohoo! So, got a can of tomatoes. Usually if I was at home, I'd use a bigger can, but it's only me, and this is the size of can I found. So this is the one I'm going to use. Onions. These nice little shower caps for bowls at the market, which I think are great. Ooh, turn that down a little bit, doesn't need to be up that high. Okay, so we've got the onions. We're going to saute the onions. We only want to saute them until they're translucent. We most definitely do not want the onions to be browned in this situation because they're really going to break down. As we're cooking the tomato sauce, they're going to break right down and you won't even notice they're there. They're kind of like stealth onions. But we're just putting onions, tomatoes, salt and pepper, a little flour to thicken this sauce. There's no garlic going in here because when you use this sauce is when you're going to add the other ingredients. So I'll tell you all about that in a few moments. So there we go. My onions are softened. I'm going to pour the tomatoes in. Now, you want to make note of how high up the pan your tomatoes are, because this is a really great recipe. You don't have to use any specifics. You just have to make note of these things, right? So see how high the tomato is up the side of the pan. You're going to take half a can of water. Probably not with the dish rag hanging in it. Take half a can of water, and the reason we want to make note of how much tomatoes in here is because you're going to add the water. You're going to boil the heck out of it until it reduces down to the place where it was before you added the water. Okay, so we want this to boil away because the idea is to really cook and break down these tomatoes, and they will. You'll see by the end of it, they're going to make a really great sauce. So I'm going to have to put a lid on this because, like I said, I've got the wrong pot for this. It's too full, but the next pot is huge, and the surface area would be too much. It would boil away in moments. So this should probably take 20 minutes, maybe even half an hour to boil down to where it was before I added my water. So I'm probably not going to stay on the live for this whole time, but you know what? You can check back once it's been boiling, but I'll chat away to you a little bit anyways. This is just sort of a bonus thing. I had to make dinner, so I thought I may as well talk to you about what I'm doing while I'm doing it. All right. So there's my tomatoes in the smallest, worst pan you could ever imagine. I'm going to keep that close by. I'm done with that. Whoops. I got a little step here in the kitchen. I swear to God, it's dangerous. There. Keep the shower curtain, shower count for later. And what do I always tell you? Make sure you put something under your cutting board so that it doesn't slip around while you're cutting, unless, of course, you want to cut your fingers off, which I do not recommend. Oh, I just had a text from my daughter. Let's see what she says. She's always got interesting things to add. Yesterday, practice test. She has a test today, and I think she's going to do great. Sorry about this, guys. So, chatting away with her. Okay, so my tomatoes are starting to boil. I have, from my bag of fruits, a pepper. So what I have is, this is a pepper, right? In Canada, we don't get peppers this big. This thing is ginormous. I got some bread, but you know what I didn't get? Pardon me being Canadian, but I didn't get butter, and I do love butter with my bread. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut this pepper, because I've got some sausage. I'm going to saute the sausage with some onions. I'm going to put the tomato sauce in it and make like a slightly spicy sausage and peppers tomato sauce that I'll put on pasta. It'll be fabulous. So now that the tomatoes are starting to boil, I'm going to poke them down. And you want to keep poking them down with the whisk. And the reason you're doing that is because you want them to break down. You want them to break up in little pieces, so you're going to help it along by using the whisk. Break them as you go. So far, it's boiling nicely. I don't see the need to put a lid on it yet. The lid is counterintuitive anyways, because you want it to evaporate, right? You're boiling down the sauce. So you prefer that it would be better if you turn down the temperature, which I will do because it's starting to get quite fancy. So the sauce is cooking away. The tomatoes are breaking down. As they cook, they get a little bit sweeter. They start to break down, and they don't hold that texture because so many people don't like the texture of tomatoes, right? So by the time this sauce is done, it's going to be a fairly, it will have some texture, but it won't be big chunks of tomatoes. So I'm going to cut up the pepper to go with it. Now, when I cut up a pepper, here's the way I do it. It's efficient. It works really well. So I cut off the top. And by the way, I'm going to use a fraction of this pepper. I don't even need such a huge pepper, but it's going to last me for a couple days. Take the little nubbins out. Hi, Bonge. How are you doing? I'm going to turn that down one more. There we go. Perfect. Okay, so I've cut the top off. So I have a flat piece of pepper, right? Put that aside. I'm going to cut it in strips. Let's get to the bowl here. Let's just have my onions in it, so it's okay to put a couple peppers in it. Smallest kitchen in the world, but I make some great meals here. So I've cut the top end off. I'm now going to cut the bottom end off. So the reason I do this is because you now have this pepper that's straight, right? So if you want to cut it in strips, you're not trying to cut through the curly part. So you can cut this, take the guts out and make perfect strips. And these ones are a little less perfect. But the point is that cutting these off and making strips out of this makes it so much easier to cut the big part of it. And you're not wasting any of it. Oh, mon Dieu. It's sweet and beautiful. So put the rest of this incredibly enormous pepper into the fridge. Smallest fridge in the world, and the smallest kitchen in the world. And so I've got this nice bowl of peppers. Earlier, I cut up some sausage, salsiccia, and some onion. Remember I said we're not putting garlic in the sauce because we're adding garlic later. So this is a basic sauce that is just supposed to be the foundation for anything. You would never take this sauce, toss it with pasta, and call it a meal. It's not that kind of sauce. It's meant to be a base, right? Like when you have, when you're painting and you've got a canvas, you've got a blank canvas. The canvas is lovely, but it's meant to have other things added, right? So that's what we're doing. We're adding other things to this blank canvas of tomato sauce. So when this is cooked and it becomes tomato sauce, I'm going to take a frying pan. I'm going to saute my peppers, onions, and garlic and sausage. And then I'm going to put a little bit of the tomato sauce in and simmer it all together. Probably put a little white wine, and that will make a beautiful pasta sauce. So, what was I going to say? Oh, yes. So, the tomato sauce, what you want to do here, and as always, I really encourage you to message me, reach out, follow me, whatever, if you have any questions, because this is sort of a basic going over of these recipes. Welcome to live chat. Okay. I'm sorry if somebody's live chatted. I don't even know. So what we do is once we boil it down to the point where it was before we added the water, and you can see it's already even gotten lower, right? It doesn't take too long. I'm limited. I can't really boil the heck out of it because I'm going to say boil the shit out of it because that's what I would say. I'm not going to pretend I'm somebody else. I do occasionally swear. I'm not going to boil the heck out of it because I have such a small pot. It's just going to overflow. But even as I'm doing this, I can tell that the pieces of tomato are getting so much smaller. So it's really coming together nicely. So when I'm back down to the level I was before I added the water, what we're going to do is we're going to make a slurry. So if you don't know what a slurry is a combination of water and flour that you stir into something to thicken it. So it's such a small pot. I probably only need 3 or 4 tablespoons of flour. This, fold this over. Nice little Ziploc bag. I wonder if I can get this flour in there. Da, da, da. That would be a perfect way to store it when I go. Make sure the flour's soft. So that's fine. I can live with that. It's in there. It's safe. I'm going to put this in the cupboard. My vastly spacious cupboard. And so I'm going to make it also spicy. So I've got crushed chilies here. In the flour mixture, I'm going to put salt and pepper. And, you can adjust your seasonings at any point, right? So don't worry if you haven't got the salt and pepper exactly right. The only thing you can't adjust, obviously, is taking too much out. So be sparse with the tomato or the salt and pepper and adjust and enhance a little bit later if you need to. Then, the other thing we want for this is quite funny. I make it so interesting. But cooking in this kitchen is like a great study for everybody to see how flexible things can be, right? How it doesn't have to be perfect. So this flour mixture, we want to put some sugar, not a lot, just maybe a tablespoon, not even, a couple teaspoons, maximum a tablespoon of sugar. That will just remove, you don't want the sauce to be sweet, but if you put a tablespoon or a couple teaspoons of sugar in here at this point, when you're adding the slurry at the end, then it takes any remaining bitterness and just makes it a really perfect mild sauce. So we've got our flour, our salt and our pepper, and our sugar. We're going to put cold water in here, not hot. If you make hot, you're going to get glue. So you want almost equal the amount of water to the amount of flour you have, right? And I'm going to tell you right now that my sugar cube, because that's all I have, will be dissolving in the sauce more than it will be dissolving in the flour mixture. So you see, we've got this. Oh, I didn't even turn my light on. I apologize. It's a little bit dark here. Let's turn a light on. Turn the light on, baby. Turn the light on, baby. Woo! I'm in broad daylight again. Okay, so you can see it's just a liquidy mixture. It's flour, sugar. Oh, the sugar is dissolving. It's flour, salt, pepper, sugar. And this doesn't taste like anything. It's really just going to be used to thicken the sauce when it gets to the point where we've boiled it down to where it needs to be. It's making a terrible mess on my stove, but surprise, surprise, I can wipe that stove up, so it's no big deal. So again, we're just jamming the strainer or the whisk into the tomatoes so they break up as they cook. The more they cook, the more they'll break up, the softer they become, and the more smooth the sauce is that you have. And you can see it's already thickening up, right? And it will be thick, but we want it to be really quite thick because we're going to use it for other things. So I'm almost at the point where it was before I added the water, which is great. Because I'd really love to be able to at least finish the sauce with you guys. So I'm going to tell you a little story while we're carrying on. I'm going to put the temperature down one more. So I used to work in a kitchen in an Italian restaurant with this young buck who really thought he was the cat's pajamas, right? He was young and brash. I'd gone to Le Cordon Bleu in Paris, so I kind of knew what I was doing in the kitchen, and he just thought he was a big shit. And he went to, he said he lived in London, he worked in Gordon Ramsay's kitchen. He could have been a dishwasher for all we know, right? But he really thought he was, you know, the cat's pajamas. So one day, it came to him to make the tomato sauce. And I mean, we're using a big pot like this, right? Making this huge thing. You make the slurry, and what we're going to do when it comes time to add the slurry, what it's going to do when it comes time to add the slurry is we're going to stir it around. And while we're stirring it, while it's swirling in the pot, we're going to pour the flour mixture in. And you have to do it like that, or else if you don't stir it as you're putting it in, it will thicken immediately, but you'll get little lumps of flour. Also, if you don't make sure you whisk your slurry so it's smooth, you're going to get little lumps of flour. We would call them gnocchi, but we're being facetious when we did that. Anyways, he couldn't do it, no matter what. And we've got this big pot, this big whisk, stirring it around and pour the thing in, and you go, I can't get that swirling vortex of horror in the pot. It's not a complicated process, but he could just never get. So whenever I make this, I call it the swirling vortex. But, you know, it's not complicated. You just want it to be moving while you're pouring it in because it's going to thicken immediately. And this is really getting nice and thick now. So I think we're just about at the process, the spot, where we can do our swirling vortex of horror, right? Just going to pour the slurry in. And you want it to be boiling. You want it to be really boiling rapidly when you pour the slurry in, because otherwise The flour doesn't cook right away, and you'll get a lightened color. But by doing this while it's boiling, you keep the bright red color of the sauce, and you just thicken it a little bit. So there you go. You have this fabulous sauce. And if you taste it at this point, it's great. Just like tomato sauce. You can continue to mash it down all you want. But that essentially is done. So I'm going to turn that off. Because, of course, you know what I need to do? Hold on. I'll be back in a second. I got to get another cloth. More there. I know I have a collection of cloths, but what I'm going to do is take this instead. I can't find the cloths. I always have my cloth underneath the burner, and then I can't use it to wipe the counter because it's underneath or under the cutting board. So I can get another one, but I don't have it. So I don't know where they're somewhere. I just don't want to waste your time while you're watching me do this. All right, there we go. So we've done our swirling vortex of horror. We've got a wonderful tomato sauce, which is so nice and thick. Now, what you can use this tomato sauce for? Pretty much anything. You can heat it up and put little spices in it and use it for chicken parmesan. You can use it as a base for a tomato pasta. You can use it as, you can put a little titch of cream in it and make it a cream sauce. Or the vice versa, you can use a cream sauce and put a little titch of this tomato sauce. It's really, it's very functional. You can use it for anything. So I'm going to saute my sausage and peppers. I'm gonna get some new olive oil because this olive oil is like a mind of its own. All right, so that will heat up lickety splickety. And got my brand new tongs. Over here. I was hating not having tongs, so I now have tongs here. Oops. Now down. Remember, if I'm making this stuff, and I know I'm a horrible trained chef, and you guys maybe are not, probably aren't. If I can make this in the smallest kitchen in the world, these things, you can make it in a proper kitchen, right? Remember what I always say, please be intuitive with your cooking. Don't feel you have to religiously follow directions because all sorts of wonderful things happen when you